Hi everybody, I'm Brooke Sanders, and this is Johnstown's Finest. Hi everybody, Brooke Sanders here with Johnstown's Finest, and today we are in Marian's home studio, which is just the most awesome place to be, and she is a potter. Hi Marian, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful.
How long have you been in this area first?
I was born in Johnstown. I've been here all my life.
So you became a potter. What led you down that path?
Something I always wanted to do. But when I was in college, they wouldn't allow non-art majors to take any of the art studios.
Oh.
So I found a lady here in town, Margaret Minahan, who gave lessons in her basement. In 1977 is when I started.
Oh
So
my
I've been doing
goodness.
this a very long time.
Oh my goodness.
It's kind of kismet that we've now come back around and I'm now in my basement.
I was just thinking that. Indeed.
I'd like to show you what I consider to be the magic of throwing a pot. It's not something that's hard, but it's not that easy that anyone can do it.
Right.
You kind of have to have a touch. I can't teach you how to throw a pot. I can tell you how it feels, because everything is done with your fingers and how it feels to you. So if you don't feel it and you can't find that in yourself to do, you'll never be able to do it.
It makes a lot of sense. Okay.
It is all feeling.
All feeling. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And your fingers are so sensitive,
Yes.
especially the tips of your fingers.
So I'll show you the magic of throwing.
Okay.
And then we trim the pot.
Okay.
It dries, it's fired, and then we glaze the pot. So I'll show you a little bit of each of those steps.
Perfect. Okay, so where would you like to begin?
I would like to throw a piece of pottery.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, folks, here we go.
I have a blue bat on my wheel.
Uh-huh.
The bats enable you to take your piece off of the wheel and set it to the side and then go back and throw another piece without disturbing them. The larger, thinner pieces of pottery are more fragile and more inclined to warp or get out of shape because they are very fluid when they're wet.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a blue bat and I have a piece of clay. The clay is a stoneware. It's considered to be mid-range. It's not a low fire, which means it's fired at about 1900 degrees. And it's not a high fire, which means they're fired at about 2300. This is a mid-range. It's fired at about 2140, which is still really pretty hot.
This sounds hot.
And you take this and you want to make sure, and I always refer to my clay as he, and I'm not quite sure why, but I do. It's
Okay.
always he.
Okay.
I make sure he's attached to the wheel and I'm ready to throw. The first thing you need to do is make sure that your clay is centered on the wheel and make sure that he is wet. If he gets too dry, he'll pull. And as you can tell right now, the clay is bumping my hands quite a bit, which means he is not centered at all. So I'm going to put some pressure with my right hand, pushing him down, and some other pressure with my left hand, containing the side. I cone once, which means bring him up into a cone, making sure he stays wet, and then I take him back down into a half circle, half of a grapefruit. The left hand rides on the outside. I leave him gently all the time. You should always be able to see the color of your wheel, which means your hand is containing your clay. The right hand and my elbows are braced so that my hands aren't working by themselves. My right hand is on top. And if they were bumping, I would tell you my clay is not centered. But they're not bumping, which means when I pull my hands away, my clay is centered. In order for your piece of pottery to be centered, your clay has to start out centered. Next, you have to make an opening into him. Thumbs together, hands very gently on the outside. I'm going to go in with my thumbs. And this dries out quite a bit. So after I go in so far, I'm going to come back, put a little bit more water, and go in again. I want to go down. Come closer. Look in and see my little hole. I want to go down till I'm about a half an inch off the bottom. It can be a little bit thicker. It can be a little bit thinner. If it's too thin, you'll cut through the bottom of your pot. If it's too thick, there's the possibility of it exploding.
Okay.
So I'm going to go down a little bit more. So I'm almost about I think a half an inch is from here on my knuckle down. I've done this long enough to be able to say, that's where I think it is. It feels pretty good to me. To open my bottom, the bottom should be as wide as my pot needs to be. So if I were going to do a wide bowl, I would open my bottom fairly wide, maybe 6 inches, maybe 7 inches. But this is going to be a vase, so I might go 3.5, 4 inches. Left hand on the outside, holding on, left elbow tucked in, sponge on my right hand, my hands touching so that they work together. Even if you think your hands are working together, if they're not touching, they can be off by even a part of a second, which throws your pot off. So, left hand on the outside, right hand on the inside, and I'm going to exert pressure from my right hand against my left hand, and I'm going to open the bottom of my pot. And as you see, it very, very gently and slowly gets wider. Okay.
Nice.
I don't want it to be too wet. If it's too wet, it will weaken your pot. I want to be able to go back into the bottom, and I want to work what they consider work your bottom, making sure it's nice and smooth. What I'm doing, I have a sponge underneath my fingers, and I'm just nicely smoothing out my bottom. I take away any of the extra slurry or any of the extra goop on it. And now I'm ready to throw or pull a pot. My hands kind of switch positions at this point in time. My left hand is on the inside. It's kind of for support. It doesn't do a whole lot unless I'm going to do a belly. My right hand is on the outside. I want it to be just a little bit damp. I'm going to slow it down to about half speed. I hold the sponge just with those fingers. I don't really need my thumb for this. I put my hand on the very, very bottom, and I put some pressure on the clay. I don't want to say I'm squeezing, but I'm kind of squeezing. And as I squeeze them together, I should be able to show you the clay rising. And as the clay lifts, they consider this pulling a pot.
Wow. How amazing, huh, folks?
It is kind of magic.
Now, folks, she gives classes, and in the description, I'll put all her information. So all you Johnstown folks who always wanted to learn how to do this, this is your opportunity.
You always want to set your rim because the rim also helps with stability. I'm going to go back down again, making sure my inside is damp, not sloppy wet. I'm going to give it a second pull. On this pull you can see that the pot kind of went into an A-frame, into an A shape. More pressure from your outside hand, less from the inside hand. If I want a tall pot, I can't have my top be out and then bring it back in. I can take it out and make it wider, but I can never make it narrower. So I want this to kind of be a cylindrical pot. I want my top to be contained. Maybe 1 or 2 more pulls. Let's see how it goes. You should be able to see it moving upward.
It is. Isn't that something? It looks easy, but I know it's not.
You're welcome to try it.
Oh, you're so sweet. I think I'm better behind the camera.
Let's do one more. Okay, I'm going to flare the top out a little bit. I don't breathe a lot when I'm throwing because by expanding your chest, you have a possibility of moving your hands where you don't want them to.
That makes a lot of sense.
On this one, I'm going to take the water out of the bottom, and I'm going to switch hands and put more pressure from the inside hand and make a belly. Now on the other pulls, our outside hand, our right hand, was putting more pressure and keeping it contained, keeping it into an A shape. But I think I want this to be a vase with a little bit of a belly, and I usually do this twice. You can always go back and do it again, but once you belly it out, you cannot take it back in. There's my first one. Let's open him up a little bit. Wipe my rim so he's nice. I'm going to put a little bit of water in. I'm going to belly him one more time. Kind of balanced.
It's beautiful. What's that string for?
The string is really a wire, and when your pot is done, you cut your pot off just by wiping him right through the bottom. And then the purpose of the bat is to take my pot and set him off to the side.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, folks, that's it for part 1. Stay tuned. Part 2 coming up soon. And until I see you next time, stay friendly, Johnstown. Bye.